Shalom and welcome to this Hebrew verses study in the book of Genesis, Bereshit. This is a really exciting chapter. It's the chapter very emotionally packed. It's where Joseph finally reveals himself to his brothers. It's a great story to read in Hebrew. So let's pray together and we'll get right into the text. Avinu Shebashamayim, Father in heaven, thank you so much for your holy Torah. Thank you for these old stories that are part of our family history. And thank you that we belong with you, that we belong in your kingdom, that we belong to this tradition of faith, to this family tree. Praise you that Yeshua is alive and that he is with us and that we can sit at his feet like that first generation of Talmidim, his disciples, and just learn from him and listen to his voice. And I do pray that as we read, we would encounter you, we would experience your holy presence, you would change us from the inside out, you would allow us to gaze upon you and to catch some glimpse of your glory. And thank you so much that we can meet you through your holy word. And thank you also that this is just a great way to learn more of your Lashon HaKodesh, your holy language, a great way to build our vocabularies and get more of a feel for this language in which Yeshua himself read the Bible. And we thank you for these things. We pray as Talmidim, disciples of Yeshua. Amen. Yes, so here we are. As you can see, this is Bereshit, Genesis, Perek, chapter, and then Mem and Hey, which is chapter 45. So let's just get right into this good old text here. There we go. Velo, so that's the negative. Yachol, so wasn't able. Yosef, lehit apek. So the verb there, apak, it means to compose himself, control himself. So he wasn't able to do that. Lechol, so to all. Ha nitzavim, so there was who were nitzavim, who were like standing, alav, literally on him. In other words, they were like the people waiting on him. Vayikra, so and he karad, he cried out. Hotziu, so the verb yatzah means to go out. So hotziu, go out. Chol, all. Ish, man, may alai, from manmi. So have everyone go out from me. Velo amad, and wasn't amading, wasn't standing. Ish, a man, ito, with him. Behit vada, so the verb there yada means to know. Behit vada, when he made known or revealed himself, Yosef, El, to Echav, his achs, his brothers. Verse 2, Vayitain, and he natand, he gave, literally, et kolo, his kol, his voice, bivchi, so the verb bacha means to weep. So bechi is like crying, so bivchi, in weeping, it's, literally in Hebrew it's like, and he gave his voice in weeping. Vayishmu, and shamad, and heard. Mitzrayim, Egypt. Vayishma, and shamad, and heard. Beit, the bite of the house of Paro, that's Pharaoh. Verse 3. Vayomer, and amard, and said Yosef, El, to Echav, his achs, his brothers, Ani, I, Yosef, I'm Joseph. Ha, ode. So ha here, usually ha means the on the front of a word, but in this case it's at the front of a like a quote, and it actually functions as a question mark. So he's asking a question. Ode, so still. Avi is my av, my father. Chai, alive. Does my father yet live? Velo yachlu, so and they weren't able. Echav, his achs, brothers. La'anot, so to ana, to answer. Oto, him. Ki, because nivhalu, so they were behold, they were dismayed, terrified. Mipan, like even panicked, kind of. Mipanav, so literally from his panim, from his faces, or you could also say like before him. Now, I want to share something with you very, very close to my heart about this story. This isn't directly related like to actual Hebrew text, but just the story in general. So, because Joseph is a picture of the Mashiach, the Messiah. In fact, if you're familiar with the Jewish tradition, then in Judaism there's actually believed that there will be two Messiahs. There'll be a Mashiach ben Yosef, so Messiah son of Joseph will come and will suffer and will die. And then there will also be Mashiach ben David, Messiah son of David, who will come and who will, reign as king. He'll be the triumphant Messiah. What's interesting is, for us as Messianic Jews, we actually believe that pretty much. But instead of believing in two Messiahs, we believe in one Messiah, two comings. So Yeshua came the first time as Mashiach ben Yosef. Interestingly enough, literally his legal father, his adopted dad, his name was Joseph. He was literally Yeshua, the son of Joseph, Yeshua ben Yosef. And certainly, we see the story of Joseph, and we see very, very, very many parallels between the story of Joseph and the story of the Mashiach. And this has not escaped the notice, of course, of the sages also. It's interesting that Joseph he's a Messiah figure, he's a savior to his people, and yet he's rejected, and he is not seen for who he is. He's right there standing in front of his brothers, and they don't realize who he is. And of course, as you know in the story, there's a reason for all of this, and we're going to get into that a little bit further in the text. So what's notable about this is that Joseph isn't seen for who he is, and then finally he reveals himself to his brothers. And when he does it single-handedly, so to speak. It's a very, very private affair between him and his siblings. Nobody else is there in the room, no Egyptians, nobody from other nations. It's just Joseph and his Hebrew brothers. And he reveals himself, and it's a very emotional thing. And I believe that there's something there. I believe that this is somehow tells us something about Yeshua and his heart for his Jewish people, and maybe also about the day when he will reveal himself to his Jewish people. Could it be that he's not going to need a bunch of missionaries to do that? Could it be that he's not going to, you know what I mean? Like, could it be that he will simply reveal himself directly to his Jewish people? I believe that that is the case. And in fact, there are some stories about that even from the last century. For instance, what's his name? Daniel Zion, the chief rabbi of Bulgaria, if I'm not mistaken. He was praying Shacharit, the morning prayers, and Yeshua simply appeared to him in a vision. And through that experience, he came to believe in Yeshua as the Mashiach, and he actually stayed the chief rabbi. And he was able to escape with much of Bulgarian Jewry to the land of Israel, where he continued as a Messianic Jewish figure. So that would be one example from this last 100 years, and there are others of Yeshua simply revealing himself to his people. And I believe that this is a trend that is only going to escalate in a good way. So anyways, just take note of that. Yeshua loves his own Jewish people very deeply. They're close to his heart. And the time will come when he will reveal himself to them. And that's going to be a very, very special thing. It's going to be a very, maybe also like a very private thing. It'll be an intimate thing between him and his people. So that is something that that I'm really excited about for him. Because Yeshua is worthy. He is worthy to have the desires of his heart fulfilled, and guaranteed the Father is going to see to it that what his beloved Son deserves, that will come to him. All right, so let's keep reading here in this story. Verse 4: Vayomer and Amard and said Yosef El to Echav, his achs, brothers, Geshu. So Nagash means to approach. Geshu, like come close, approach, na, please, or now, Elai, to me. Vaigashu, and they nagashed, they came close. Vayomer and Tiamard, they were probably all backed up against the far wall, like freaking out, Vayomer, and he said, Ani, I, Yosef, I'm your brother. I'm Yosef, Achichem, your ach, brother. Ashel, who machartem, so you machard, you sold, Ot, me. There we go. Let's put that down a tiny bit more. Okay. Mitzrayma. So to Mitzrayim, Egypt, verse 5. Ve'ata, and now, all don't teyatzvu. So don't be atzaved. Don't be pained or anguished. Ve'al, and don't yichal. Don't be angry, ba'enechem, in your eyes. Don't be mad at yourselves. Ki, because machaltem, you machard, you sold, ot, me, hena, here. Ki, because lamichya. So the verb chaya means to live. Michya is like life, in the sense of life being sustained, life being preserved. So for the preservation of life and survival, Shlachani. So the verb shalach means to send. So shlachani, sent me, Elohim, God, lifnechem, so before you. The Hebrew word for an apostle is a shaliach, someone who has been sent. So you could say that Joseph was an apostle. He was a shaliach sent by God to Egypt before his family, so for their survival. Verse 6. Ki, because zeh, this shnataim. So shana is a year, shnataim are 2 years. That aim end is the dual plural ending. So if there's two of something, it gets this special little aim. So shnataim, 2 years. Ha-ra'av. So the ra'av, the famine, is from the verb ra'av, to be hungry. Bekerev, in the midst of ha'aretz, the land or the earth. Ve'od, and still. Chamesh, 5 shanim, years. Asher, when ein, so there isn't. Chorish, verb charash means to plow, so in which there won't be plowing. V'katzir, and harvest, and that's also the Hebrew word for summer. Verse 7. Vayishlacheni, and shalach to me, sent me, Elohim, God, lifnechem, before you. Lasum, so to put or place or establish. Lachem, for you. Sherit. So the verb there, sha'al, means to it means to remain or to be left over. It has that sense of like a remnant, I guess. Ba'aretz, so in the eretz, the land or earth. Ul hachayot, so the verb chaya means, again, it means to live. So ul hachayot, to keep alive. Lachem, for you. Lifleita, so the verb palat means to like to run away or escape or flee. So this is actually interesting because we have the English word flee, and what is a noun? When you flee, that in terms of a noun, we call that your flight, and in Hebrew we call that a fleita, as you can see here. The pa fa sounds are interchangeable depending on how the word is positioned in the sentence. In this case, it's fleita. So English, we say we have flight when you flee. Hebrew, we have fleita when you falat, you flee, you run away. So that's maybe that'll help you to remember this word, fleita, flight. Gedolah, big. So it's a great escape, really. That's probably a good phrase there, the great escape. Excuse me. Ve'ata, and now, lo atam, so it wasn't you, shlachtem, that shalacht, that sent, ot, me, hena, here, he, but rather ha Elohim. So literally like the God or the Almighty. That is a great perspective to have in life because we are all wronged by people at times in our life. And if we can look beyond that to see a powerful God who is also kind-hearted and loving and merciful and is arranging our lives for the best, it's going to help you to be a forgiving person, to be a patient person, to stay sweet and not get bitter. Take note of that. Joseph says, actually, it wasn't you guys who sent me to Egypt. That was God. Vayesimeni, so he seemed to me. It's like he put me, placed me, la'av, so for a father, lefaro, to Pharaoh, ul adon, and for an adon, like a master, lechol, to all beito, his bait, his house, like his household, umoshel. A moshel is like a ruler. It's interesting because it's also the word for like a storyteller, or like a teacher of parables. The book of Proverbs in Hebrew is mishlei, and that's like from the very first word. It says mishlei, like the mashals of. So in Hebrew you have this word mashal, and it means like a proverb or an analogy or a parable, or a little story. It means all of these things. And then from this word, we also have the Hebrew word for a ruler. Something very, very, very powerful insight there, actually. It's the people who tell the stories who rule the culture. And you think about it, it's the people who give those analogies and tell the proverbs and teach people how to think who are the true rulers. So, think the entertainment industry, think Hollywood. The people who tell the stories rule the culture. Think the news media. The people who tell the stories are the rulers. So take note of that. O Moshel, and a ruler, Bechol, in all, Eretz, the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. Verse 9. Maharu, so like hurry. Va'alu, and like the verb ala means to go up. So alu, go up, ascend. El, to avi, my av, father. V'amaltem, and you amar, say, elav, to him. Ko, thus, amal, said, bincha, your ben, your son, Yosef. Samani, so again, seemed me, like placed me, Elohim, God, la'adon, as a master. L'chol, to all Mitzrayim, Egypt. Rada, so remember, Yarad means to go down. So Rada, descend Elai, to me. All don't ta'amod, don't amad, don't stand. Don't hurry. I mean, don't stand around. V'yashavta, and you shall yashav, like sit or reside. V'eretz, in the land of Goshen. V'haita, and you will be karov, close. Elai, to me. Ata, you. Uvanecha, and your bens, your sons or children. Uvanei, and the sons or children of vanecha, your children. In other words, your grandchildren. Vitzoncha, and your tzon, your flocks. Uvkalcha, and your bakars, your herds. That's like sheep and cattle, generally speaking. V'chol, and all asher, which lach is yours. Verse 11. V'chil kalti, so I will this is a pretty rare verb. It's usually doubled up like this, and it means to provide for someone. V'chil kalti, and I will provide otcha for you, sham, there. Ki, because od, still, chamesh, 5, shanim, years, like shana is years, ra'av, of hunger or famine. Pen, lest tivaresh, so it's like lest you are impoverished. And you know what, let's look at this word in eSword real quick here too. As you know, I love eSword, and I like to show you in pretty much every lesson how to use it. And I'm a little bit curious about this particular word. So this is Genesis 49:11. So let's bring up eSword here. There you are, my beloved little eSword. And you can look up specific words, and also you can see how else they're used in the text. All right, so here's Genesis 49, verse 11. So, okay, generally speaking, you're just going to have your straight version like this. If you have the plus version, for instance, I have New American Standard Plus, which is, with the Strong's numbers. You can also get that. I had to pay for that, but you get KJV and KJV Plus for free. So here, we're going to go down to verse 11, highlight that. We'll put it on the plus version with the Strong's numbers. Okay, here, he says, okay, or else, you're going to become impoverished. This is the word I want to look at with you. Okay, so it's yarash. You can mouse over it here, and you can say yarash. And then you can see like the different senses in which it's used. It shows how many times it occurs, 231 times. So listen, we're going to right-click on the word, and then we're going to do a quick search on it, and it'll show us everywhere it's used in the Bible and how it's translated. So, sometimes this can give you a fuller sense of the word. Okay, so this is interesting. Look how this word is often used. Heir, it has the sense of being an heir. So in the sense of possessing. So what's the opposite of that? The opposite of that is to become impoverished. So this is actually the first time in the text of the Torah where this word has the sense of impoverished. It's like when someone else is the heir, when someone else possesses your stuff and takes everything. Okay, it can have the sense of destroy. In the sense of dispossessing. See how that works? Driving out nations, so possessing their land and driving them out. Destruction in that sense. Receiving as a possession. Alright, so again, that's in the positive, where in this case to be impoverished is in the negative. Let's see how else. Okay, so there's that dispossess word that I mentioned earlier. Let's keep looking through here real quick and just see how else this word is used. Okay, drive out. So you can see how this word is usually used. So to have your stuff taken away from you when someone else possesses it, they yarash it in the sense of possessing it, and then you are yarashed in the sense of being dispossessed and thereby made poor. So that's pretty much always how the word is used, as you can see here. Sorry, hopefully I'm not making you feel nauseous with scrolling down through this so fast. When you get really good, you can do that, and you can actually see if there's anything notable there. Anyways, so that's kind of the idea there. And let's get back to our text now. And hopefully that was illuminative for you. Hopefully you feel very illuminated now. Okay, so pen tivaresh, lest you are impoverished. Ata, you, uveitcha, and your bite, your house, v'chol, and all, asher, which lach is yours. Verse 12. V'hinei, and look, einechem, so your eyes, ro'ot, be'ra'a, see, v'einei, so the eyes of, the eyes of Achi, my Ach, brother, Vinyamin, that's Benjamin, Ki, because Fi, it's my peh, it's my mouth, Ha medaber, that is devouring, that is speaking, Aleichem, to you. Verse 13. V'higadatem, and you shall nagad, tell, le'avi, to my Av, father, at, indicating what's to be nagaded, told, kol, all kavodi, all my kavod, all my glory. And that word, as you may know, literally means to be heavy or intense, weighty. It has that sense of glory. B'mitzrayim, in Egypt. Ve'at, indicating what else is to be told. Kol, all asher, which ritem, you have ra'ad, you have seen. Umihaltem, so you mahal, you hurry. Ve'horadetem, and yarad, go down. At, bring down in this case, bring down at Avi, my Av, father, Hena, here, verse 14. Vaipol, and he nafaled, he fell, all on Tzavre, so the Tzaval, the neck of Vinyamin, Achiv, his Ach, brother, Vayevch, and he bachad, he wept, Uvinyamin, bacha, and he wept, all on Tzavarav, his neck. And this word here for neck is related to the Hebrew word for commandment. Not the same word, but they're closely related. They're what we call cognates. So the verb tzava means to command or to charge, give a mission, tell someone what to do. And then from that verb tzava, we get the noun mitzvah. A mitzvah is a command, like a commandment. The plural is mitzvot. So if you're doing a command, you are doing a mitzvah. If you're doing commandments, you're doing mitzvot. Don't get those confused. It's really easy to get them confused, but don't do it. All right, now that word for commandment is related to this Hebrew word for neck. It's not the same word, but it's related. And this gives us a very powerful insight into the function of God's commandments. What does the neck do? You know, in Greco-Roman ways of thinking, which is primarily what Western society comes from, it's more focused on nouns, like what is a thing. And it's also more aesthetically oriented. What does it look like? If I were to ask you to describe, for instance, if I don't have a pen here, but if I were to have a pen in my hand, I would say, what is this? And you'd say, a pen. And maybe I'd say, describe this to me. And you'd say, well, it's about so-and-so long, and it's this color, blah, blah, blah. That's like Greco-Roman thinking. If I were to, to a Hebrew thinker, if you were to show them a pen, you'd say, well, you would say, well, describe this to me, and they would say what it does. They'd say, well, it writes. You write with it. So you can see the difference between aesthetics and like a more aesthetic orientation and a functional orientation. So the Hebrew orientation is more functional. So the question is, what do mitzvot do? What do commandments do? What's the point of them? And this Hebrew word for neck gives us an understanding. What does your neck do? Your neck connects your head and your body. Its primary function is to join two things, to enable an organic unity, so to speak. And that is what the commandments of God are all about also. The commandments of God are opportunities for us to do stuff here with our physical bodies in space-time and connect with God. They're connection points between us as a people, us as a community, and our Creator. So you can see how that works. He said, if you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me, stay connected to me. Abide in me. Remember, Yeshua talked about that. He talked about abiding in him, and he talked about loving him and keeping his commandments in the same breath in Yochanan, John, chapters 14 to 17, in that long discussion he had with his disciples on his last night before his death. So anyways, hopefully just reading this Hebrew word for neck gives you a bit of a better understanding of the mitzvot, the commands. So, we are the body. Scripture says that we, as a community of Yeshua's disciples all around the world, we're the body, and also locally, a local group of disciples, we're the body. And then who's the head? Yeshua is the head. How does the body stay connected to the head? Through the neck. How do we stay connected with the Master? we keep his commandments. We do the stuff he told us to do. Yes, of course, it is a matter of the heart. Yes, of course, there's that relationship that we want to cultivate on a regular basis. We need to spend that quality time with him every day. Very important. But it's not enough to just have it like as an internal thing. You got to externalize. You have to actually, work out your salvation. Hopefully, your faith is evidenced through your lifestyle, your habitual patterns of behavior. That's the point where there's like a full, complete connection between us and the Mashiach, the Messiah, who became a life-giving spirit, the life-giving spirit, in us, as Paul talked about in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. So that's something that hopefully will encourage you. If you come from a Christian background, you probably don't talk a lot about commandments and keeping commandments. If you try to do that, people will be like, oh, legalism right there, you know what I mean? But no, like Yeshua talked about keeping mitzvot, keeping his mitzvot. And that obviously wasn't a legalism thing, that was a love thing. So let's just make sure it stays a love thing, of course. And what did Yeshua say? What was his mission? He tzavad us, he commanded us, and he said, here's the mission: go into all the world and make talmidim, and do what? Teach them to do everything that I tzavad you, that I commanded you. So that's it's a big topic, but I just wanted to touch on that because it's not every day that you see the Hebrew word for neck in the Hebrew text of the Torah, and it's a great way to springboard into talking about mitzvot and understanding them a little bit better. All right, so verse 15, Vaynashek, and he nashakt, he kissed. It's funny because this is also the Hebrew word for a weapon, and neshek is a weapon. Oh my goodness, I was so tempted so many times, because like a neshek is a weapon, but it's also a kiss in Hebrew, right? So if you're ever in Israel, as you know, there's pretty tight security there. So let's say you're going into the bus station in Jerusalem, and they'll ask you, yesh lecha neshek, do you have a weapon on you? And I don't know how many times I wanted to be like, yes, and blow them a little kiss, They ask if I have a neshek, a weapon, and I blow them a little neshek, a little kiss. But I didn't do it, because would probably be a really, really lame joke in Israel. But, if you're just learning Hebrew, you're like, ooh, this would be a funny pun. And I don't know. I mean, they're doing security, you don't want to make their lives any harder. You want to make them laugh, but maybe that wouldn't make them laugh, Okay, because how Israelis can be. They can be kind of serious. All right, so anyways, Vaynashek, and he kissed. There's some interesting little rabbi trails we could go on with this too. How was Yeshua betrayed? He was betrayed with a neshek, a kiss, which is also the Hebrew word for weapon. Kind of interesting. L'chol, to all echav, his achs, his brothers, vayevch, and he bachad, he wept alehem, on them. So as you can see, this was a very emotional thing for Joseph, and this tells us something about Yeshua and when he reveals himself to his own Jewish people. And yes, that has already begun, but I believe it will also happen on a bigger level. V'acharei, and after chen, this, dibru, so Davard spoke echav, his achs, brothers, ito, with him. Verse 17. I know I'm reading a little bit fast today. If you're like a total beginner with Hebrew, you're like, Izzy, I feel like I just got in a Porsche with you and you're going like 100 miles an hour down the interstate. No, I'm sorry for that. I know we are going fast. It's because I want to cover this whole chapter with you, but I don't want to like drag it out and make it feel like really, really long and tedious for you. So I'm trying to kind of stay upbeat and high energy here. And you know what? Even if you're not like able to follow along and catch everything, that's okay. Like you're still getting a lot out of this. So, just believe in the process of osmosis. You're just immersing yourself in the language here, and you're absorbing stuff, even some subconsciously, and that's great. V'hakol, and the kol, like literally the voice, in other words, the news. Nishma, it was shemad, it was heard. Beit, in the house of Paro. Le'mol, so to amar, say, ba'u, so bod came. Ache, the achs of the brothers of Yosef. Vait, except that they didn't know him as Joseph. They knew him as Tzofnat Paneach, Zaphanath Paneah. Vaitav, and it was Tov, and it was good. Be'enei, so in the eyes of Pharaoh. Uve'enei, in the eyes of Avidav, his Evids, his servants or his courtiers. Verse 17. Vayomer, and Amar said, Paro, El to Yosef. Emol, so Amar, say, El Achecha, your ach's brothers. Zot, this, asu, asa, do this. Ta'anu, so ta'an, like load up. At ba'ilchem, so your boers, your beasts. Ulechu, and halach, walk or go. Vo'u, blow, come. It's kind of funny. Go come. That's like literally what it means. In other words, go. Alza, so towards the eretz, of, like the land of. The on the end here indicates direction. Like Mitzrayim means towards Mitzrayim. Arza means towards the eretz, the land of Canaan, Canaan. Verse 18. Ukhu, so and you lakach, you take, et avichem, so your av, your father, ve'et, and batechem, your bites, your households, uvau, and bo, come, elai, to me, ve'etna, and I will natan, I will give lachem, to you, et tuv, so that's the good, the goodness of, eretz, the land of Mitzrayim, or you can maybe even say the best of the land of Egypt there, ve'ichlu, and you shall achal, eat, et, indicating what is to be eaten, chelev, the fat of ha'aretz, the land. In other words, the riches of the land, the best of the land. Verse 19. Ve'ata, and you, tzuveta. So you are tzavad, you are commanded. So let's just have a look real quick at how this works. Remember earlier we learned that the Hebrew word for neck is like tzaval, and then the Hebrew word for commandment is tzava, and they're related words. They're not the same, but they're like relatives, cognates is the linguistic technical term. We talked about how that's the function of a mitzvah, commandment. Is it's a connection point. And this would be an example. So all of a sudden there's this like abstract relationship between Pharaoh and the brothers of Joseph. He commanded them something, he gave them a mitzvah, and it's almost like now they are joined to the Pharaoh. They have this abstract relationship in which he told them to do something, and now they are going to do something in relation to the Pharaoh. So can you see how that works? It's like this connection point, so to speak. And then, of course, in that case, they were going to come back to Pharaoh. All right, so that's kind of how it works. So, often in today's Christian world, you'll hear people say, well, it's not about a religion, it's about a relationship with God. And that's very true, but you do need to understand that part of a relationship with God is commandments. Commandments are like, it's like they're very relational. You could say they're God's love language. Okay, so tzuveta, you've been commanded. Zot, this, asu, you shall asa, you shall do. Chu, so lakach, take, lachem, for yourselves. Me'eretz, from the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, agalot. So an agala is like a cart. It's from the verb agal, which means to go around, because a cart is on wheels that go around. And that's how you get the word. Now, what's interesting about this word actually is, in Psalm 23, it mentions, you'll lead me in like paths of righteousness for your name's sake. Guess what the Hebrew word there is for paths? It's magle. Magle, and then tzedek is righteousness. Magle tzedek. It's this word here to go around, to agal. Like a wheel, the way a wheel goes around. And there's something there. Like it has the sense of cycles. So when you're doing something right, it's something that it becomes a habitual pattern of behavior. It becomes a cycle for you, in a good sense. One example would be the Moedim, God's appointed times. We have this weekly cycle where we go around in a circle and we come back to the seventh day of the week, Shabbat. That's a cycle. It's a galling. It's going around, so to speak. Similarly, with the others, the other Moedim, appointed times like Passover. These are things this is a cycle that we go around. So, when it talks in Psalm 23 about Magle Tzedek, about paths of righteousness, it's not just talking about some windy path that goes wherever. It's talking about cycles of righteousness. So anyways, here it's talking about wagons, agalot, letapchem, so for your tafs, your little ones, v'len sheichem, and for your nashim, your wives, unesatem, and you shall nasa, carry, et avichem, your av, your father, uvatem, and you shall bo, you shall come. Verse 20. The einchem, and here it's like your eyes, your eyes, al tachos. It's like it's kind of funny. Like don't pity or don't have mercy on kolechem, on your kelis, like on your vessels. So that would be like utensils, furniture, all your stuff. It's like don't let your eyes pity your stuff. Ki, because tuv, the best. Tov is good, so tuv here has the sense of like goodness or the best of. Kol, all. Eretz, the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. Lachem, to you. Who is it? It's yours. Verse 21. Vayasu, and Asad, and did. Chen, thus. B'nai, so the Bens, the sons of Israel. hang on for the ride. It's almost like an elevator dropping down, hey? Vaitain, and he Natan, and gave lahem to them, Yosef, agalot, wagons, all P, literally on the on the mouth of, in other words, at the command of Pharaoh. Interesting too, like just the idea of like when someone commands you to do something, you're doing it on their mouth, so to speak. So, when God commands us to do something through His Holy Torah, His teachings, we're doing it on His mouth. When Yeshua gives us a mitzvah, a command or a mission, then when we do those things, we're doing them on His mouth. Again, it has this it's like this very personal, relational sense. Vaitain, and he Natan, he gave lahem to them, tzeidah. Now we're going to have several words for food in this chapter. This is like the first of at least 4. So, if you're hungry, you might want to go get a little snack, or this is just going to make you slobber all over your keyboard or your phone or however you're watching this. And I mean, that's probably not going to be damaging, but if you're watching with anyone else, it might be embarrassing. So go get some chips or something, all right? And then you won't be and then you can munch on your chips while we learn some Hebrew words for food. Okay, so tzeidah is the first word, and it's from the verb like tzud, which has the sense of hunting. So it's like provisions, like originally it would have the sense of provisions that you get through hunting animals. You hunt down some food. Okay, so they gave him tzeidah, provisions, ladarech. So for the derech, the way, verse 22. Lechulam, so to kol is all, so lechulam, to all of them. Natan, he gave laish, so literally like to a man, in other words, to each person. Chalifot, so the verb chalaf means to change. So chalifot, changes of smalot, clothes. Like a simla is an item of clothing, a garment. Ul Vinyamin, and to Benjamin, Natan, he gave shlosh, 3 meot. So mea is 100, meot are hundreds. Shlosh meot, 300. Kesef, silver. V'chamesh, and kesef in Hebrew is also just money. Silver, money is the same word in Hebrew. V'chamesh, and 5 chalifot. So chalafs of changes of smalot, clothes. Verse 23. Ul aviv, and to his av, his father, shalach, he sent kazot, like this. Asara, 10. Chamorim, so a chamor is a donkey. Nosim, so nasayin, carrying. Metuv, so from the best of Mitzrayim, Egypt. I really like this story because it's very repetitive. It's a great way to build your Hebrew vocabulary and to reinforce it. Like, how many times did we already cover this phrase here, like the best of Egypt? Like tuv, the best of Mitzrayim, Egypt. So that's nice, as long as you don't get bored. Ve'esel, and 10 atonot, so that's like young donkeys. Nosot, so nasayin, carrying. Baal, here's another Hebrew word for food. This one has the sense of like grain. V'lechem, here's another Hebrew word for food. You probably know lechem, right? If you know the classic Jewish blessing said before a meal, if the meal includes bread, we say Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, blessed you Lord our God, King of the universe, hamotzi lechem, who brings forth lechem, bread, min haaretz, all right? So there's lechem, bread, umazon. And here's another word for food. This word has the sense of like sustenance or nourishing food. It's like from the verb zun, which is only used once in the whole Tanakh, and it has the sense of like just being really well fed and well nourished. Grace after meals, if you're familiar with the Jewish tradition of prayer, is called the Birkat Hamazon. So the Birkat is like the bracha of the blessing of Hamazon, the food. Food at its best, really. So like if you're just like have a big bag of pork puffs, you probably can't say the Birkat Hamazon after the pork puffs because they're not nourishing. See how that works? Maybe you can more like thank God that you're still alive, or that, just plead that they won't actually affect your body. I don't know if that would be trying him though. Be like, God, I just ate this garbage, but please bless it to my body. Just, miraculously transform the molecular configurations so it's not GMO anymore and it'll actually, be good for me. I don't know. I wouldn't advise it. Maybe just like have a carrot instead. La'aviv, so to his av, his father. Ladarech, so for the derech, the way. Verse 24. Vayishalach, and he shalached, he sent. Et echav, his achs, brothers. So it's kind of cool. In like Hebrew thought, it's like they became his apostles now. He shalacht them, so they became his shaliachs. See how that works? So now his brothers are his apostles, going to his father to tell him the good news. Preach the gospel to him. Joseph is alive. We thought he was dead and he's alive. And now we're going to survive. Cool, eh? That's kind of what the apostles did, actually. You know, Yeshua, the son of Joseph, is alive, and now we're going to survive. Vayelchu, and they halacht, went. Vayomer, and the Amard said, Vayomer, and he said, Aleim, to them, all don't tilgzu. A really interesting word here. Ragaz is the verb, ragaz, and it means to shake or to tremble or to quiver. It has the sense of strong emotion, usually not positive emotion. Like if you're really, really angry, just shaking mad, or if you're you're so freaked out and scared, you're you're shivering and trembling. That's kind of the idea there, So al tilgzu, don't that word, badarech. So in the derech, in the way. You know what? I'm really curious to see how this word is translated. Let's have a look at this. So let's bring up eSword again here. Let's see if we can just bring it up. Boom. Okay, nice. I love the shortcuts on my computer. You hit Alt-Tab, and it goes to the previous window. Oh, it's so sweet. I love efficient things, things that save me time. I mean, you could say maybe you could say I'm lazy, and that's why. Or you could say that I'm efficient. I prefer to say that I'm efficient. See how that works? All right, so here we have Genesis 45, verse 24. Now, I have a bunch of translations that I like to consult loaded on my version of eSword. You can you see the little download button there. You can get your own. And then a really handy little feature here is this tab where you hit compare. And it'll just show you the verse in all the translations that you have loaded. All right, so let's have a look at this. Complete Jewish Bible, don't quarrel. ESV, don't quarrel, don't quarrel. Oh my goodness. This is interesting. KJV and JPS. That's the JPS is Jewish Publication Society. It's kind of like the Jewish equivalent of the KJV. See that ye fall not out. Okay. Don't have a falling out. That's interesting. I guess that's an old English phrase, to have a falling out. Don't quarrel. Oh my goodness. Almost every single one of these have it rendered the same way. Don't quarrel. Don't ragaz. But now you have the fuller sense of the word. Physically it means to shake or quiver or tremble. To argue on that level, to get mad. And then, don't... Okay, here's one here. Tree of life. Don't be anxious. That's the one that translates it differently. Now, I want to do one more thing with you here. This is going to be fun. Remember the Boanerges? Do you remember that word? Yeshua nicknamed several of his disciples. That often happens in human culture and in male culture. If you have a bunch of guys that spend inordinate, how would you say that? Inordinate? Yeah, inordinate amount of time together. You just have to try out some of these words in your mind sometimes, you know what I mean? But anyways, if you have guys that spend a lot of time together, often you get this culture where they start to give each other nicknames. And that definitely happened with Yeshua and his boys. Shimon, Simon, he gets renamed Petros, which means the rock, Rocky. Seriously, his nickname was Rocky, you know what I mean? And then there was the next two, James and John, Yaakov and Yochanan. They got renamed the Sons of Thunder. The Boanerges. You know what? Let's look that word up real quick here, and because I think it's only mentioned in one of the Gospels, if I'm not mistaken. So we hit Control S with eSword here, except it's not working for me. Why? Why is this happening to me? Okay. Anyways, you know what? Let's do this the old-fashioned way, or is there an old-fashioned way? So weird. Okay, I just took a screenshot. Obviously that didn't work. What am I gonna do? I really want to search this. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's because it's in compare. See, so this is I'm doing this on purpose, of course, to give you a tutorial for how to use eSword. See, so the reason I just let all of that happen is because I was trying to show you that if you're in the compare function here, then you can't hit Control S to bring up the search function. You have to have it on your individual tab. And of course, I had all of this planned because I'm the teacher and I know everything. Okay, so let's search Boanerges here. Boanerges. I think that's how you spell it. Yes. Okay, there it is. It's only in the Gospel of Mark. Mark basically is he wrote down all the stories from Simon Peter about Yeshua in the early days. And so you have these really personal glimpses in the book of Mark that you don't have in the other Gospels. And this is definitely an example. So you're only going to get this in Mark. Mark chapter 3, verse 17. All right, so James and John, the sons of Zebedee. In Hebrew, that's like Yaakov and Yochanan, the sons of Zavdai. To them, he gave the name Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. All right, so Boanerges, this is cool because this is actually like an original Semitic term. Either Hebrew or Aramaic, generally speaking. Both of them were spoken as living languages in the Second Temple era, like in Yeshua's time in Israel. And so Boanerges here, probably, and there's a little bit of a question amongst like the from my reading on this topic about what this what the original Hebrew or Aramaic would be. But there's I think that from my reading, my understanding is it's like the Boanerges. And it's this word. Here it means sons of thunder, but it has that sense of like ragazing, like anger, or like arguing. So it could very well be that James and John, they were argumentative people, and they may have had like short tempers and they got mad like fast. It would explain some of the stories, like when Yeshua and his guys were heading towards Jerusalem and they had to go through Samaria, and there was this one town that didn't accept them. And guess who it was that wanted to call down fire on the town and just burn everybody like in an instant? James and John, the sons of thunder. So you can kind of see how that these guys, it looks like they probably had short fuses. Now what? Let's look up this word real quick in Strong's here also. I'm just curious how it's handled because obviously this isn't a Greek word. Boanerges is it's a Hebrew Aramaic word. Okay, there we are. So here, of Chaldee origin, all right, and then it actually gives the Strong's numbers, as you can see, sons of commotion. Interesting stuff. Okay, so let's look up that second Hebrew word real quick just to see what it is. So it's Hebrew Strong's number 7266. All right, so we're gonna hit Control S, then we're gonna hit H. H stands for Hebrew 7266. We're gonna search that, and it doesn't come up anywhere. Let's try 7266A. Sometimes if a word has two different meanings in Strong's, then it'll have an A meaning and a B meaning. No, it's just not coming up at all. That's kind of disappointing. Oh, you know why? It's my fault. Look, see, I'm making this mistake on purpose also, because I want to show you, I'm not just here as your Hebrew teacher to give you a Hebrew fish. I'm not just here as your Hebrew teacher to teach you how to fish for Hebrew fish. I am also here as your Hebrew teacher to teach you how not to fish for Hebrew fish. And so this is an example of how not to fish. See this? If you do a search on eSword and you're only looking at the translation, but the translation plus the Strong's numbers, you're going to get nothing. You need to go plus, and then you search the Strong's number plus. All right? So I'm just showing you here what not to do so you don't have to make these mistakes. All right, so there we are. There's one place where this word comes up, and it's Nebuchadnezzar in rage, in ragaz. Okay, so there's our word. See? Dude, it's translated rage here. Violent anger. Like James and John, Yeshua called them the Boanerges. Yeah, that's translated as sons of thunder. But it means, these guys had they probably had some serious anger issues. Seriously. They had some rage going on. I wonder what happened in their past to cause that. Anyways, Yeshua loved them. Yeshua wanted them to be his disciples. And Yeshua saw, the good in them and the potential in them. And I think that's very encouraging. Because, maybe you have some issues. Maybe I have issues. Maybe Yeshua still sees you for who you are and he sees the best in you. Maybe he still wants you to hang around him, to follow him. Maybe he wants to change you. He loves you and he's not going to change who you really are, but change some of that stuff and really give you a mission in life. Just like he did for his original guys, Rocky and the Thunder Boys. Okay, so that's that was a fun little discussion there. You got to appreciate the humor in this too. I kind of wonder if Joseph wasn't saying that with a smile on his face, don't argue on the way, guys. You know what I mean? Try not to argue for once. Okay. I can hear a light note in him saying that anyways. Okay, we're almost done this chapter. This whirlwind chapter. Verse 25. Vayalu, and they alad, they went up Mimitzrayim from Egypt. Vayavo'u, and they came Eretz, to the land of Canaan. El, to Yaakov, that's Jacob, Aviem, their Av, father. Vayagidu, and they negaded, told, lo, to him, Lemol, so to Amar, say, Od, still. Yosef, Chai, he's alive. Joseph is still alive. V'chi, and because, I don't know how to translate that. Just, it doesn't even need to be there. Who, and he, Moshel, he is ruler, or ruling, Behol, in all Eretz, the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. Vayafag. Really interesting word. It has the sense of like going cold or numb, or like getting really slow or stopping, kind of. Vayafag libo, his lev, his heart. And you know what? I really want to see how this phrase here is translated too. Let's have a look at it in Yisod. Vayafag libo, because it's this really rarely used word, you know. Okay, so let's get back from the Boanerges account. Okay, New American Standard, Genesis 45, verse 26. He was stunned. Right, let's compare this now and see how else this is rendered. That did not work. Okay, we need to see. I'm doing that to show you what you need to do here. If you're going to use the compare function, you need to actually click on the verse that you want to compare. All right. So again, I'm just showing you what to do and also what not to do. I hope you appreciate all the mistakes I'm making, and just for your sake, you know, like I'm comfortable with making myself look really clueless and dumb, if that will help you and teach you so that you can you know, become a better Hebrew student faster. So I hope you really appreciate just how humble and selfless I am in that regard. Okay, so he was stunned, his heart became numb, his heart fainted. Okay. And then finally, Young's literal, his heart ceaseth. Like that sense of stopping. His heart stopped, so to speak. All right. So that's interesting. You can see that the sense that I gave you, it's reflected in these different translations here. I think this might be okay, anyways, let's just keep reading here. The next phrase, ki, because lo ha'amin. So the verb there, you know, the Hebrew word amen, it kind of went viral around the world as the word amen. So amen is a Hebrew word. It's a Hebrew word that, you know, Christians all around the world say, like, on a regular basis. Kind of cool that we use this Hebrew liturgical term in the Christian tradition of prayer. Kind of a word borrowed from Judaism. I like that. Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, he talked about that too. He said, like, you know, if you bless in tongues, like, someone who doesn't know what you're saying, like, how are they going to say the amen at your giving of thanks? So Paul actually expected that when, you know, a believer prays in a group setting, the others will say amen. They will say, you know, like, amen to the prayer. They'll say that they agree. So that's interesting. That's actually an expectation set forth in the New Testament. And Paul was talking to a bunch of Corinthians there who were Greek speakers and weren't even Hebrew speakers, but apparently they said amen. So anyways, here we have lo ha'amin. So he didn't aman. It's like he didn't say amen, basically. And the verb means to believe. In the sense of, like, it has the sense of being faithful. Like, not just believing for a split second, like, yeah, I agree with that. Okay, now I don't. No, it's like, amaning is like to believe in a faithful way. And have that sense of, like, you know, like consistency, reliability, trustworthiness, you know. Anyways, lo ha'amin, he didn't believe lahem, to them. This is interesting. There's this correlation in the story between his heart and believing that Joseph was alive. Why do I find that interesting? Because that's exactly what Paul talked about. Remember in Romans chapter 10, he said if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart the Master Yeshua, that Yeshua is the Adon or Adonai, depending on how you want to read that in the original, you know, in the Hebrew equivalent. But anyways, you know, if you confess with if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart, then you'll be saved. Isn't that interesting? So there's this correlation in Hebrew between the heart and faith. Your heart and believing. You believe not just with your mind, but with your heart. Faith just isn't just an intellectual dynamic. It's not just like some little mental exercise. It's something that comes from the depths of who you are. Hopefully it takes root in your very heart. You believe with your heart. Anyway, so just take note of that. You know, you can kind of see that dynamic in this story. That's why your heart is so important. Verse 27. Vayidabru, and he devoured, he spoke a lav to him. Or sorry, they spoke to him at, indicating what they spoke. Kol al divrei, the devars, the words of Yosef. Asher, which diber, he spoke alayim to them. Vayal, and he ra'ad saw at, so indicating, at indicating what he saw, agalot, so the agalas, the carts, ashel, which shalach, sent, Yosef, laseit, so to nasa, to carry. I know that's a tough one, because like the noon is a weak letter in the verb, so it's dropped. So instead of nasa, you just get like the two letters, sin, aleph. So that's why you have me, and then I can just tell you the stuff instead of you having to like look it up in your Hebrew dictionary, and you're like, I don't know where this 3-letter verb is in my dictionary. Well, that's why you do these Hebrew verses studies with me. You avoid that, it helps you to avoid that anguish, right? So to nasa, to carry, oto, him, vatchi, and chayad, and lived, or in this case it has the sense of reviving or resuscitating, ruach, so like the literally the breath of. It also is the Hebrew word for wind, ruach, and it means spirit. So it's like Jacob's spirit revived. It's like his breath resuscitated. Yaakov, Jacob, Aviem, their father. Such a beautiful picture. I really, really love that. And I believe there's something to that too, because Jacob represents Israel, the nation. He represents the Jewish people. And when he realizes that his finest son, who he thought was gone, was still alive and was actually a powerful leader, and it's like his spirit revived. And I think that's something that happens with Jewish people when they encounter Yeshua for who he is. Instead of Yeshua making a Jewish person less Jewish, he revives their Jewish spirit. He resuscitates their Jewish soul. He brings them to life. He breathes through us like a new zeal for the Torah, a new passion for God. We experience a new relationship with God. It's a very, very powerful and exciting thing. It's the Brit Chadashah, it's the new covenant. And it's cool how you can kind of see that dynamic also alluded to in this story about it's almost like the resurrection of Joseph. Like, he wasn't dead, but in the words of the dad in Yeshua's parable about the prodigal son in Luke 15, remember he said, the son of mine, he was dead and he's alive. So similarly, Joseph was dead and he was resurrected. He came alive in their hearts again, and Jacob's spirit was revived, and that was a good thing. Verse 28, end of the story. Vayomer and Amard and said Yisrael, and said Israel. So here's again. So this is interesting. Firstly it describes him as Jacob, the man. As a human being, and then we have, it's like his spirit revives, and now he's referred to once again as Israel, like Jacob at his best. Jacob in relation to God. Jacob experiencing the blessings of God in his life. Boom. Rav. So like Rav, really interesting. It means like it's that. Okay, he's like, it has the sense of like enough. It's enough. But Rav literally means like lots of something, much. Od, still Yosef, Joseph, Beni, my Ben, my son, Chai, he's alive. Elcha, I will halach, walk, ve'elrenu, and I will ra'ah him, I will see him, beterem, before amut, before I will mut, I will die. And even though this story ends, at least this chapter, with the word for death, he's saying that he will see his son, his beloved son, again before he dies. So yay for that. Thanks for joining me in this Hebrew verses study. I know we went fast. I know I talked fast. I'm Canadian, so I can talk fast. My brain functions at a very, very high pitch, which also helps. If you're like from the deep south, then you're used to talking slower. And you're probably like, Izzy, you're like just too much for me today. Like, I just need me a nice cool cup of iced tea, and I'm just gonna sit down and watch this video on YouTube, and I'm gonna like put you on half speed. Like, I'm gonna click on that little gear in the bottom right hand corner, and I'm gonna turn you down to 0.5, and that should be just good enough for me, so I can have a nice restful Shabbat. Anyways, I'm from Canada, so I'm not very good talking like people from the south, but you get the idea. All right. So anyways, be blessed. Thanks for joining me in the study. Hopefully you learned some more Hebrew. Hopefully your spirit revived a little bit more, just as we talked not only about this story, but also about what this story prophetically pictures in terms of what God is doing in the world today and what Yeshua will do in the future in relationship to his Jewish people. Well, thanks again for joining me, and I can't wait to have you join me in our next Hebrew verses study.